Well, he talked about Sunday, and we're going to talk about a way you can get involved right here in the Monterey Bay with Lynda Marin, who's been busy, and I know what it's like to organize events, getting it all together for what sounds like a wonderful celebration of Sol, our wonderful star. Tell us about Sunday. Bill McKibben began kind of talking about how it's a celebration of solar energy, but where are its roots? Did it come out of nowhere? Was it like Earth Day?
Well, thank you, Rachel. It's so nice to be here. What it came out of, I think, is it was inspired, of course, by Bill McKibben's floating it early in this year. But the idea of it goes probably way back to before we had fossil fuels. And the energy that we had, was from fire and the sun. So we didn't have the technology to harness it. And we went underground and got all that bituminous, dark fossil fuel that's been able to bring us to this point. And we can't underestimate the value that fossil fuels have had for us, but we're also overloaded now with emissions that come from burning it. So the idea of Sol, or the celebration of the sun, is to help us make a transition from being fossil fuel or oil people to being sun people. And that's a really different framework for us. And it's a learned framework at this point. Someday it won't be. We imagine in the future that sun and wind will be the energy providers, and we won't call them alternative energy anymore. We'll just call them energy.
Renewables is a good word as well, because the sun keeps on shining, and will forever, as long as, until it burns out, and that's a long time in the future, and probably be some other beings on the planet by then. So I don't know if you heard that whole interview, but listening to it, I got a lot of hope in the sense that we really could go all solar. We really could do that. And there will be some costs, but compared to the costs of what we're doing now, one thing, I don't know if you felt this way listening, but the psychic lift off of our shoulders of knowing we don't have to commit planetary suicide with fossil fuels, I think is vastly underestimated what that would do psychically to our future, to our children who are, right now contemplating a really difficult future. Imagine just living in a world where you didn't have to wake up thinking about that.
I see that everywhere I go, I talk to people, and particularly people who have grandchildren, but parents as well, are extremely concerned about what the future for their children or grandchildren are. And I can say that without a doubt, for Citizens Climate Lobby people, the organization that I helped to lead in Santa Cruz, that is the first thing that comes out of their mouths when I ask, why did you get involved? Or new members, why does this interest you to work on legislation to bring down emissions? Grandchildren, children, the future generations are the very first concern.
One of the really exciting things I heard about is balcony solar, that people are putting, $100 panels on their balcony on these big apartments all over Europe, and they're plugging into them without any permits, and so in a way the governments are catching up to the people and finding out that people don't want to pay these huge amounts for heating and air conditioning, but they're happy to get free solar from this one panel they bought. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that is so heartening and encouraging. And I want to know more about how they got that in Utah. I had no idea until listening to this interview that Utah has the privilege of having such a thing. So if they can do it, it seems as though there must be ways for us to get more access to that kind of solars as well. And every bit of access that we get, the more freedom we have from these giant companies that just keep jacking up the price and making it harder and harder for us to actually freely access the energy that should be free to everyone.
That's a really good point. Sunday, sun is on a Sunday, the 21st, and it's happening all over the globe, I guess, because Bill McKibben mentioned it's happening in all countries. And right here in the Monterey Bay, you're organizing an event. It sounds really fun. Of course, California is famous for its sun worshippers anyway, so bring your tan and your sunglasses and maybe your sun shirt. What else can people do at Sunday besides get a little sun?
Well, we hope it's sunny on Sunday, that's for sure. But there's lots to do, actually. There will be, the usual suspects. There will be vendors there to help people understand more about their capacity to install heat pumps or solar panels or batteries or an induction stove cooktop. Those kinds of things will be on display. And also what we hope to do is help people use the expiring tax credits from the IRA that will go away on December 31st of this year. I'm so sorry about that, because that was going to be a 10-year, build out for all of us to use these benefits.
Now I'm getting mad.
Yeah, I know.
That was our money, and that was our Congress, and they appropriated it. And now to undo that, that's like against the will of the people, because these were our representatives that did that, and now they're undoing it. So maybe we'll redo it again.
Well, that would be very welcome, and it won't be anytime too soon, I'm afraid. So we want people to get the benefits of it as quickly as they can, because they're running out. But besides those usual and wonderful suspects, those vendors who have all of that technology to offer, there will be lots of activities for kids. Particularly, there'll be a table for doing sun prints, although I imagine adults would enjoy that very much as well.
Yeah, I used to do that when I was a kid.
It's a wonderful thing to do.
Yeah, with little flowers on them. And
yeah, we have all kinds of material to be used on these sun prints. But we also, today, I'm so happy to say, we also have with us now the Poet Laureate of Santa Cruz, Nancy Miller Gomez, who is going to do a sun poems table.
Oh,
yeah,
and lovely.
Yeah, and she's got some great ideas about how that will work, and I think that will also be a table that will be as attractive to children as to adults. And there's going to be a telescope there to look at the sun, to look at sunspots. Yes, a special telescope.
Without hurting your eyes.
Yes, that's right.
Of course.
And we'll have to have a roving astronomer to answer all your solar system questions.
And that will be Cosmic Joe Jordan, I assume.
Yes, you're absolutely right about that.
Who else will, I have to tell a really short Joe Jordan story because he's so enthusiastic.
Yes.
I used to do a radio show with him at another station, and one time it was after the show was dark, and it was raining, and there was this puddle, and a bunch of lights were shining on the puddle, and Joe said to some random people coming out of the store, hey, come here, let me show you this. There's these little quotation marks. Why do you think that those come out like that when the light shines on a puddle? I'm like, Joe, these are just random people. And they were totally all fascinated, staring at a puddle in the rain. And that's Joe. So if he can make people randomly interested in reflections in a rain puddle, he can probably tell you something you didn't know.
Yeah, I believe that's true. When I talked to him about this, he said, well, what will I say to people? I said, are you kidding?
Don't have any trouble there. Just talk about the sun. Yeah. There's a lot.
Then we'll have, this is a commercial-free event. So there's nothing to buy or sell. But, of course, those vendors can collect names and contacts for people who want to.
Can I ask you a little more about that? Because
yeah.
I know some people who are thinking about doing it. Isn't it too short of a time period between now and December to actually have one installed, but you could set it up and still get the credit? Is that what they're
I think that's what we're aiming for. Yeah.
As long as you sign up.
As you sign
a contract.
Exactly.
And do you have to get a permit too? Or
well, it kind of depends on the work that you're having done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's definitely worth a try.
Yeah, and so Ecology Action used to know a lot about those. That's a nonprofit.
Yes.
Are they going to be there?
Ecology Action will be there. They'll be there as RCC, Resourceful Central Coast, and they will be there with an EV, a demo EV.
Electric vehicle, for those of you who...
Yes, thank you. But they won't be there exactly as Ecology Action. Those are two elements, parts of their organization that will be there.
I always enjoyed on Earth Day seeing all the electric vehicles and electric bikes and all kinds of other electric things. I thought it was interesting that Bill McKibben said that you could power the whole country with people's electric vehicles if you needed to. Wow. Because there's that many of them now out there. And also his discussion about, if trade were different, we would be able to buy really cheap electric cars and go like that. That's happening in other countries where they're turning over very quickly. Certainly you never saw large cars in Europe when I was there this summer. About that book, Bill McKibben's, I know a few people called, but I'm going to take those calls after 6 because we have no secretary or phone answerers except us here in the air room. So we'll hold on to the thought if you were one of the people wanting to win that book. Save your calls for just after 6, and then we'll pick it up. I'm talking to Lynda Marin. My name's Rachel Ann Goodman, and we're here in the studios of K-Squid, broadcasting to the world through the stream at ksqd.org, and want to say a special hello to the people in Tallinn, Estonia, listening. Thank you for finding us. How you did, I don't know, but thank you. And we have people in Los Angeles and Washington and all over California listening. So I hope you're listening in the Monterey Bay and you can come to this Sunday, but if not, if you're somewhere else, I hope there's a Sunday near you. It could sort of get as big as Earth Day.
There is one in Monterey, I found out just recently.
Great.
So we have 2 close Sundays together.
Yay.
And, the thing about Earth Day is, it started out at a moment of a disaster, right, in 72, with an oil spill. And what I love about Sunday is that it's starting out with a celebration of how far we've come and where we're going and how quickly we've gotten there, actually. When you look at it and you look at just the whole development of solar, it took 100 years, to get from Charles Fritz coming up with the first solar cell, which was 1% efficient, to, this, the kind of what happened in the 70s with the with the oil strike, or when we were without oil and gas, and we had to have those long lines, and some of us remember that. But that also sparked a whole bunch of research into solar technology, and from that point, there was a kind of slow growth until the 21st century, and now we've just had this really quick proliferation.
The thing that struck me the most, perhaps, of that whole book, I mean, there were many parts of it that were super enheartening, make you feel a little more hopeful. One is that it takes, 10 years to bring, or 15 years to bring a nuclear power plant online, aside from all the other issues with nuclear, but it takes like 2 years to bring that much energy online with solar, or less, 18 months. And so if you want to do this quickly and get quickly off fossil fuels, the Earth can do that. Humans can do that. If they can overcome kind of the stranglehold on politics. That's why I go back to that balcony thing. You don't really need a permit to put a piece of solar panel that you buy, like a camping one, on your balcony, and you plug it right in.
In Pakistan, where he was saying they're just laying these panels out on the ground and capturing the sun that way. And so there's been this incredible increase in energy production in Pakistan just in the last year. So yes, that it can happen fast. Yeah, if we don't have so many rules and so many prohibitions. Now we have all of this effort at suppressing solar in the United States, but the rest of the world is not taking that tack at all. They're going in the other direction, and that is really hopeful. It's hard. It's hard
to be in the country that's dragging its feet right now politically, because the rest of the world's looking at us, because we had historically the most, emissions of any country on Earth. Now China's surpassed us, but we were the historic polluter and created a lot of what's now coming to pass in terms of heating. So it really it's morally incumbent upon us not only to mitigate our own output now, but to help other countries deal with what's already happening and help them quickly energize on solar. So some of that's happening, but it's not going to happen necessarily in this next couple of years unless we gain a Congress that's willing to go back and reappropriate the dollars that were already given. I heard there was 80% finish in I think it was in Rhode Island, of a wind turbine project. And they fired 3,000 construction workers. It was almost done. And, what does that do? It's like putting your finger on the other scale. And as if the oil companies need that, right? They're already wealthy beyond measure and can buy elections. So that's what you get, I guess. The message is, you can buy someone's loyalty, apparently.
Yeah.
So we got to get Citizens United overturned.
Oh, I can't agree more with that.
Maybe ranked choice voting. I don't know. I really can't claim to know what the solution to the pollution is, but I do know we can't live like this for very long. It's going to be this cycle of disasters and FEMA being defunded and CDC. Do they want to kill us? I don't know, but at a certain point, people are just going to do it anyway. It's like if they're needing hope, they're going to find a way to become their own engineers and put their own solar on their roof and maybe invent their own solar panels. Who knows? You really can't stop these things. The momentum is there. And that's what's hopeful about that book. And what you're doing is there is something you can hang your hat on, that we can completely decarbonize our energy economy. We have all the tools and the technology right now. Yeah. It would be nice if the technology that was developed here ended up being produced here, because most solar panels are made in China.
Right.
And
put China's supplying the world, really, with solar panels.
But to block even those just isn't really the solution, I don't think. But I'm renting my solar panels, and pretty soon they're going to take them off my roof, and I don't know what I'll do then. So, everybody's got different situations. I did the lease thing for 15 years or whatever. In 2028, they're already failing because they're old technology, right? And they're only 15, 13 years old, which tells you how fast solar technology is moving.
Right. And the efficiency has really accelerated now, to where, it started out at 1% and it got to 6%, and now it's somewhere between 12 and 15%. And then at its optimal, it's 30%, but not really for residential solar yet. But it's just increasing and increasing. So that's also exciting.
Yeah. And just imagine when people aren't so worried about, running their dryer because it's running off the sun.
Right.
Doesn't mean you should just waste every little kilowatt, but because you could use it for some other thing. But that's a whole different mindset, right, of limitless energy. And they thought that, that nuclear would be too cheap to meter, and
right.
It wasn't.
Right.
There was a cost to that, too. So this is tempting to think it's cost-free, and he admits in his book it's not, because the mining of these minerals does hurt the environment. And he's really saying, but be realistic. Which would you rather have, climate change and big holes in the ground from oil and the tar sands, or this? And that's not a nice thing to contemplate, but it seems like a trade-off that may be necessary.
And something I learned from him, I didn't realize that those minerals that are used for the production of solar panels, for instance, can be actually extracted back and recycled at the end of their life with that panel or that technology.
And reused.
Yeah. Which is, of course, quite the opposite with fossil fuels.
Yeah, indeed. And I think that's going to be the future, as well as looking at these cell phones and the rare earth minerals and making them not so rare by taking them apart and reusing them. There's a lot to look forward to if we could just get there. And I think that's the message of this Sunday, which is happening on the 21st. And you can get there. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about traveling there, parking, and the time exactly of this event happening on the 21st on Sunday. Sunday.
I noticed that Bill McKibben also said Sunday. That's how I've taken to saying it as well. Well, it's at Emmett I think it's 133, is that right? Emmett Street. It's in front of Holy Cross Church. It's the Mission Plaza Park. And it starts at noon and it ends at 5. And in between there, if you bicycle, we will have bike racks for you to lock your bike to, and we'll have somebody overseeing the bike rack even. So you'll have a safe time leaving it there. And we say to everybody, bring a picnic. We hope you'll just spend the afternoon with us, because it's not just a walk through and be done with it. It's a hangout with each other and really enjoy this collective kind of transformation that we are making in the moment around our sun, as our energy system. And we think that you'll enjoy the music. And we'll even offer you some free vegan, or I should say plant-based treats. Also, Pacific Cookies has donated a bunch of cookies for us. So if you get there in time, that's the motivator.
Okay,
Come on time.
Be there, because the cookies will run out.
That's right.
And there's a band, I understand.
And there's a couple of bands, yeah. We have the Earth Rangers starting out.
Who's that? That's Peter Weiss?
It's Ron Goodman.
Ron Goodman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Gail Pellerin is going to talk to us at 12:45. So if you want to hear Gail speak, come early-ish. And then we'll have we'll have open mic. And there will be a number of people talking at open mic, but we're going to prioritize kids speaking at open mic. We really want to hear what kids have to say, and there'll be a lot of activities that they will have done that they might want to share with us. They might want to share their sun poem or their sun print, or anything else that they have found out about or have a question about. So open mic. And then the next band that's playing is Singing Wind Marimba. That's a very polyrhythmic, upbeat dance music band. And then we'll have another open mic after their set at around 3:30. And we may even have like an old-timey band playing at the very end. So, we want to fill the day with music, and we want it to be a joyous experience.
It would be fun if people sang only songs about the sun, like "Here Comes the Sun," and
I thought of that.
the Sun King, and
the Earth Rangers do have "Solar Oven" as a song.
Oh, nice!
It's a great song.
Yay! Is there going to be a solar oven there?
There might be. That's quite possible.
You can bake cookies. Maybe the cookie company will warm them up in there.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing about this. And I know that you're a volunteer with the Citizens Climate Lobby. You do a lot. And thank you for all that you do.
Well, thank you. And I just want to say Santa Cruz Climate Action Network at Pauline Seals is working as hard as I am on this. And we're working really closely together. And it's really been a pleasure and a task.
I know how it is, having organized Squidfest. So the moral to this story is show up.
Yes.
On the 21st. From when time?
12 noon to 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. Lynda Marin, thank you. Thanks for being here on Talk of the Bay.